The Paper Lantern, Part 5. The Legacy of Light, a 3,000-word emotional story, USA style, cinematic and heartfelt. The wind was calm that evening, brushing softly through the fields where the town of Willow Creek had once gathered for the annual Lantern Festival. Time had passed. The faces were new, but the air still smelled faintly of hope, of wax, and of burning light. Emma stood on the hill where her grandmother Lily used to light the very first lantern. She was no longer a child clutching her grandmother's hand. She was now 34, a mother herself, with soft eyes that carried both joy and grief in her hands. She held the lantern, weathered, patched with old paper, yet somehow still beautiful. On its rim, faint but visible, were the words Lily once wrote, "Let light guide love." Every year since Lily's passing, Emma had continued the ritual. She'd light the lantern, whisper her grandmother's name, and let it drift toward the sky. But this year felt different. The town had grown quiet over the years. The younger generation seemed distracted, detached from the old stories. The festival that once filled the air with music and laughter had been replaced with silence. Emma's own daughter, Grace, now 10, stood beside her, holding a tiny lantern of her own, undecorated and plain. "Mom?" Grace asked softly, her eyes reflecting the fading sunset. "Why do we still do this? Nobody else does anymore." Emma smiled gently, the way Lily once did when explaining the world to her. "Because, sweetheart, when people stop remembering why the light matters, the world grows dim. Your great-grandma believed that even one small lantern can change someone's heart." Grace frowned, confused. "But it's just paper and string." Emma laughed softly. "It's more than that, baby. It's a promise." She knelt, helping Grace tie a ribbon to the lantern's edge. "This lantern means someone cared enough to light it, not just for themselves, but for someone else who might need hope at that night." Emma tucked Grace into bed and stayed up late at the kitchen table, the dim glow of her lamp flickering across the wooden surface. She reached into a box marked Lily's Things and pulled out an old photograph, one of Lily holding a lantern beside Emma as a child. A note fell from the box, written in Lily's neat handwriting. "One day, my light will fade, but if you carry it forward, it'll never truly die." Tears welled in Emma's eyes. She whispered, "I promise, Grandma." Weeks later, Grace came home from school, looking quiet and withdrawn. "What's wrong, honey?" Emma asked, kneeling beside her. Grace hesitated before mumbling. "Some kids at school made fun of my shoes. Said they were old." Emma sighed, looking down at the scuffed sneakers. They were hand-me-downs. Money had been tight since Emma's husband, Daniel, lost his job. She wanted to tell Grace it didn't matter what people thought, but Grace's eyes were heavy with hurt. That night, as Emma prepared dinner, she remembered something Lily once told her after a bad day at school. "When you feel small, make someone else feel seen." The next morning, Emma packed a box with art supplies and drove to Grace's school. She spoke with the principal and suggested starting a project, Lanterns of Kindness. Each student could make a lantern for someone they appreciated, a classmate, a teacher, even a janitor, writing one kind thing about them inside the paper. Grace was hesitant at first, but when the art teacher handed her a brush, she dipped it into blue paint and began to draw tiny stars. By the end of the week, the classroom ceiling shimmered with over 100 paper lanterns, each one glowing softly with LED lights, carrying messages of friendship and kindness. One lantern caught Emma's eye, small and painted with silver swirls. Inside, written in Grace's neat handwriting, were the words, "To my mom for always lighting the dark." Emma had to turn away to hide her tears. Word of the lantern project spread quickly. Parents, teachers, and neighbors began stopping by to see the children's creations. Soon, the town council decided to bring back the Lantern Festival, this time led by Emma and the students. The night of the festival, the streets of Willow Creek glowed once more. Children laughed, couples held hands, and families stood together beneath the canopy of floating light as the lanterns began to rise into the night sky. Emma felt a presence, as though Lily was standing beside her again, smiling. Grace tugged at her sleeve. "Mom, can I light Grandma Lily's old lantern this time?" Emma hesitated, her heart catching. "It's fragile, sweetheart. It's been with us for years." Grace smiled softly. "Then that means it's ready to fly again." Emma nodded, tears glimmering in her eyes. Together, they lit the flame inside the old lantern. The paper shimmered gold, glowing brighter than any other. Slowly, it began to rise, dancing among the others, graceful, free, eternal. The crowd watched in silence as the lantern soared higher than all the rest. Then, suddenly, a breeze carried it further, beyond the town, toward the dark horizon. Grace gasped. "It's leaving." Emma smiled. "It's finding someone new." Months later, Emma received a letter. No return address, just a folded piece of paper inside a worn envelope. It read, "To whoever sent this lantern, thank you. My wife passed away last year. I thought the world had gone dark for good. But one night, paper lantern landed in my field with the words, 'Let light guide love.' I don't know who Lily is, but because of her, I found hope again. Please tell her thank you." Emma pressed the letter to her heart. "See, Grandma," she whispered, "your light's still traveling." Years later, when Grace was grown and had a daughter of her own, she found her mother's box, the one marked Lily's things. Inside, among the photos and notes, she found a tiny folded paper lantern. On it were 3 generations of handwriting Lily's, Emma's, and her own. Grace smiled softly and carried it outside, her daughter at her side. "Mom," the little girl asked, "why do we make these lanterns?" Grace smiled through tears, lighting the flame, because someone, long ago, believed the world could always use a little more light. The night sky filled with paper lanterns once more. 3 generations. One unbroken promise. A legacy of love and light. And somewhere far away, a farmer looked up, smiled through tears, and whispered, "Thank you, Lily." Moral: no act of kindness, love, or hope ever truly ends. It becomes a legacy carried by hearts, passed through generations, glowing forever.